Hello, baby.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome. You know, the wait, as they say, Spencer, is over.
The wait is over. People
Yeah.
have been asking for this for so long. We should
Have they?
start
I mean,
including.
They kind of have.
I think everyone in their hearts has been asking for it. Whether or not they know that they've been asking for it with their minds, that's another question.
You know, they say that the word of God will be written on your hearts and your minds. And that's how you know that you're going to get to heaven. Actually, you don't know if you're going to go to heaven, but God knows if you're going to heaven because He'll see it. He'll read your mind and your heart.
Okay.
And the fans of this podcast have
Our God.
read. Yeah, well, I'm the god of this podcast,
Okay,
and so
you're
I've read the minds and hearts of the people, and they said we want to hear some Marco.
I have
And I'll get to him in a second, but yeah,
I just really want to have some bad news for anyone who listens to the podcast. We looked it up. You are going to hell.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
I talked to this guy named Calvin. What's his
Calvin
full
Hobbes.
name? Yeah, Calvin Hobbes.
Yeah.
And he looked at his pet tiger and he goes, "You know what? I believe in this thing called predestination, and I've predetermined you are going to hell."
Uh-huh.
That's what they said.
He weighed your soul against a feather or something.
A feather? Oh wait, is
Yeah.
that like the lore thing or whatever? Bible lore?
Are you talking Egyptian? Like ancient Egyptian? Isn't that what Horus did?
Oh, I haven't watched Moon Knight.
I'm talking about it, ancient Egyptian. Like real stuff. Well, I guess it's not real.
Oh,
you know,
that's a hot take, right?
Like
there.
Horus, like real.
You know, Horus is a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I
guess it is real. Then.
Egyptian.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that Yu-Gi-Oh cards are real.
I mean,
whatever they
you've seen the
illustrate is real.
you've seen the TV show. They show up when you play the cards.
Yeah, you have a shadow game and everything, and that's
Yeah.
how. Well, people go to hell, and that's kind of hell, right?
It's the Shadow Realm.
The realm of hell.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone to Sound Direction, a menswear podcast without stuffiness. I am Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And we're going to try and keep this episode not as explicit. I apologize for anyone who has listened to the last couple of ones and was like, these guys are so raunchy. They're so horny. You know,
We need a red band trailer for these guys.
Yeah. I watch movies with Isabel, obviously, and every time I see a red band trailer, I'm like, all right. And I don't think she knew that's
Here
what
we
that,
go.
like, yeah. I think I went with someone, I don't know if it was Isabel, but someone was like, what's the big deal? And I'm like, just you wait. This trailer's either going to be so scary or so funny.
Or so sexy. It could be.
I mean, I think sexy can be funny. I think
true.
funny can be sexy. That's like a Tina Fey thing, I think.
Yeah, that's his Bossy Pants.
There you go. The Tina Fey not documentary, autobiography. I guess an autobiography is kind of a documentary,
it's a book documentary.
Yeah. What about a book documentary?
Like a documentary of a book?
Yeah.
Like, you talk about like the Great Gatsby movie, where at the end he writes the Great Gatsby.
That's right. They make effectively making it a form of documentary.
Yeah. Anyway.
Speaking of documentaries, we have a subject for you today. He is a human being.
Whoa.
Yeah, crazy.
Spoiler.
Wait, spoilers? Like you're not always a human, and then at the end of it,
we could have been
human.
Could have been talking to like Mr. Ed or some sort of talking animal or something.
Name two more.
The lion from Wizard of Oz.
Okay, yeah.
It's a talking animal.
I brought in
the lion from Madagascar.
Alex the lion?
Yeah.
Wow, Roar. That's a good movie. But yeah, we've got a very special guest on the podcast today. He's one of our good friends. He's a legend, a Marvel legend, just like Morbius.
Yeah, that's right.
And wait, just like Morbius, his name starts with an M. Everyone put your hands and flippers together for Marco Martinez. Welcome to the podcast, Marco.
Hey guys.
I wish we had we could
Wonderful.
make music for when people come on when we introduce guests.
That's true.
Oh, that would
I
be
could
sick.
compose
You
it.
should have brought Undertaker.
Yeah,
Your
dude.
first guest should get the Undertaker.
Oh
theme
man,
song.
okay, no, from now on, yeah, every guest gets to pick the walkout music.
Yeah, okay. MJ's playing it. MJ, fade out your music right now. Thank you very much. Don't get on mic.
It just has to be public domain, so make sure it's like,
Or less than 30 seconds.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's like the thing there. But yeah, Marco has been one of our good friends. I can't remember. Actually, I do remember the first time we met. I think you had moved to LA, and we've been following each other on Instagram for a while because we are a part of a little thing called Male Fashion Advice.
A real
Which is
Reddit meetup happening right now.
That's right.
Yeah, we IRL. We had
That's
an
right.
IRL meet many moons ago.
I remember you had shorter hair back then. You were wearing the Kapital like surf popover shirt. And we got ramen. That was the
Goodness.
first time. Yeah,
wow,
we went.
sharp
Yeah.
memory.
I mean, I have, you guys have seen The French Dispatch. I don't have a memory of everything I've ever written, but I do remember what I've worn, and I remember what I've worn when I've hung out with people and what they have worn.
Okay,
So
so you have a fit memory.
yeah, that's right. I have a fit memory.
A photographic memory.
Yeah, it's come in handy. But yeah, that was like the first time we met, and ever since then, we've occasionally seen each other. A couple of menswear events. You went to the blokes, I guess, 2-year anniversary party, RIP. I remember you were there for that. We've gone to a couple of flea markets together. We've gone to like hang out in Highland Park and everything. We've explored some stores. So, I mean, it's kind of crazy how you haven't been on the pod, like, and we interview our friends all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of go back and forth on interviews because, a lot of behind the scenes like podcast production stuff.
Yeah.
But you're on now, so that's what's important.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's also an honor to talk with you guys as well.
That's very kind of you.
Oh,
to say.
That's how I am.
I mean, hey, this is a guy who's been on the styleforum.net, member feature. You've been on Grailed.
.net,
I remember the Grailed one. That was a big deal. You've been on Put This On and everything. But we just know you as good old friend Marco, not the famous
we
guy.
do call you, yeah, I mean, we always call you friend Marco.
Friend Marco.
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. Everyone butchers my my online username on Reddit.
Oh yeah, why don't you tell? I mean, I even did it because I am a bad Filipino, so I don't. It didn't even occur to me the correct pronunciation. But can you walk us through both of your usernames real quick?
Yeah, please.
Are we redacting some language because of
Nope.
how people have interpreted? Okay, no redacting. So I've had people call me Camel Toe Joe.
Okay.
The username, right? But it's actually Kamote Joe. So a kamote is a Tagalog pronunciation word for a sweet potato. So
How do I not know
kamote.
this?
Oh.
I remember like I said it one time. You're like, "That's not it," and I'm like, "Oh shit, you're right. It's not." But yeah, I mean, hey, it's not my fault they don't say that in Potato Corner at the mall, which is a Filipino thing.
Oh, newsflash! Where's the potato corner?
Dude, they're all. I mean, this is what happens when you're not from East LA. Let me just tell you that. But you can. They have them at Glendale Galleria.
Oh,
and
my
now
goodness.
Santa Anita. So if you ever need a snack, you can go to the infamous Glendale Galleria and the Americana at Brand, and get some. Get served by your local Glendale Filipinos. I was say Filipinos. That's not right either. And get some potato corner. But so yeah, you've got Kamote Joe, and then you've got your other one, which is your Instagram handle.
Oh, the Instagram handle. Yeah, that one was more random. It was
Random.
back in 2017. A coworker just commented on my jacket having a lot of pockets on it, and he just called me Pocket Man. When
Big Tuna.
he saw
It was
me
a real
coming with all the
coworker
pockets.
nickname.
A real coworker thing.
Yeah.
What were you
Of
wearing?
course.
Was it Engineered Garments or was it Capital?
It was this fisherman's jacket from Sasquatch Fabrics. So it had a detachable hood on top of the lower part of the body, and there were probably like 10 or 12 pockets on that thing.
Wow.
So he just wanted to make a comment on it. And I
Were
think
you
I was wearing
were you
fatigue
walking
pants.
like this while it was happening? You know, like
And you're always
am
blurry when you're wearing
Pocket Man. They
Wow, see,
revealed me
yeah.
as a robot. So yeah, 2. You can't spell Kamote. No, wait. I don't think you can spell Pocket Man without Kamote, which is really funny.
Oh shit, that's actually
pretty
right.
dope. I mean, I think everyone's if you have like a different username somewhere, it should have to be like an anagram of your other usernames, in my opinion.
Well, if you spell out the teenage gentleman, no, if you take Ethan McNally Wong. By the way, I don't know if everyone knew that was my middle name. That's like, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal.
But if you rearrange the word, it says "I am the teenage gentleman." That's a little I want to say Star Wars reference. That's not what that is. It's a Harry Potter reference. Well, Marco, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I mean, some people, I mean, they're not. The people who listen to this aren't all your friends like we are, so we know who you are. But why don't you tell us to the people who are listening? Tell us about what you do, and yeah, whatever else you feel like encapsulates you in a succinct way.
Absolutely. I'm 28 years old.
Nice.
I work in the tech industry as
We're
a
gonna get into
research
that
analyst.
later. Yeah.
We will.
Oh,
we will
there
get
was some
into
big
that.
news at your company. I don't know.
No, let's not say it. We don't have to say it. There's big news at the time of recording. There's
big news at the time of recording, but you know this will come at a later date. So the news will have broken by then. So I've been working in the tech industry for about 5 years now, approaching 4 years in LA.
Yeah.
And LA was a big move for me from San Francisco because I'd not spent much time here when I was growing up, and I just wanted
a much different city.
Experience. A very different city. I thought I could get around without having a car for the first year.
Yeah.
And then COVID slammed us, and then I eventually caved and got the car, but without purchasing the motorcycle first. Nice. Actually, that was my hack for getting to and from work and just making getting around fun. So motorcycling has been almost 3 years. I've been enjoying that hobby, and I'm a huge dancer as well. I take a lot of classes locally in LA. Was previously in some crews in San Francisco and in college. So those are my hobbies.
Was music was that like your first like big, I guess, like interest, before like fashion or motorcycling or anything else like that?
Good question, Spencer.
That is a really good question. So before I danced, I was a baseball player in the Philippines.
What? Whoa, that's sick.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, that's a little known fact. I don't seem to bring it up as much because everyone knows the fashion, the motorcycling, and the dancing.
Do you still like follow baseball? Are you still into it, or is that like
I am strongly following baseball.
Okay.
For the San Francisco Giants.
Okay,
I am not a Dodgers fan. I can't with the Dodgers. They're the Yankees of the National League. They are the Yankees now, actually.
We'll see. I just like
I don't even know what that means
because I love losers. So
and I don't watch sports. I'm a big old nerd, so I don't even know what the. Tell to me like Star Wars.
Just think of the Yankees as the Empire from Star Wars.
Or how about the Celtics in winning time?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, we're watching winning time.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's crazy. But yeah, you've always been kind of like, as much as I've known you, other than fashion, it's always been very clear that you've been very in tune with like dancing and kind of music and everything like that, which is not surprising for a lot of people that we kind of interact with. There's like a lot of I mean, maybe not just like music or something, but like there's always kind of like a creative or like a personal expression that's very in common with the people that we hang out with.
I mean, we've talked about like how many guys in classic menswear started out in like, like rock groups or punk groups or whatever. There's a lot of guys into like heavy metal and stuff like that. So I don't know. Yeah, it makes sense. There's like a lot of like music and then like menswear.
Yeah.
So how did you get into clothing now? I mean, Was it something that happened like in college, as most MFA guys tend to happen? Like they have to like they come out of high school and they are like, oh shit, I gotta start dressing up or well because I want to be taken seriously. What was that like for you? Because you were in international school and you went to college over here.
Yeah, that was a wild transition actually, because I distinctly remember the first 2 years of college dressing like a b-boy, because that was that was the
Okay.
main style I was
So
in.
stuff retained
So
from high school then, huh?
yeah, there was a lot of track pants and oversized crew neck sweatshirts and Adidas
Nice.
Gazelles in the summer and the spring.
There you
And
go.
then during the summer, I just wear tank tops. I would just get tank tops from like the hundreds, from like Huff, Quicksilver. Like it just
Classic.
seemed like something to wear in college,
Mhm.
because the most, at least freshman and sophomore year, the people who seemed to have the most influence on campus were the guys in frats. They were always like wearing the tank tops,
Yeah.
always wearing their Vineyard Vines shorts. So I saw that and thought, okay, I could try that in like a b-boy way. Tank top, Adidas track pants,
Yeah.
and Adidas Gazelles. So it was kind of auxiliary to what I saw. And then I think it was junior year. Junior year, I started getting into vintage and sort of the menswear Tumblr
Mhm.
era. I remember buying like the Fuck Yeah Menswear book from
Yeah.
Lawrence,
There you
Lawrence,
go.
and that
Larry.
was,
There he
oh,
is.
Larry. And Tumblr was a really huge inspiration for me then. It was actually after I I was dating someone for a while in college,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually started inspiring me to just dress a bit up more,
Mm.
like in a sensible manner, not in a, oh, I can't take you seriously if you're not wearing button downs, but why don't you try like this V-neck sweatshirt over this button down? Why don't you
Yeah.
just try Chukka boots from J. Crew? And I thought, okay, this is actually really accessible to
Wow. So she
try.
was kind of doing some MFA style advice. This is before MFA.
Yeah. This was before MFA.
Wow. So
Yeah, there
she
was
knew
some.
Chukka boots then. She knew that
Yeah.
she was like, I want a
She was like,
guy
you got to
doing
get the
this.
Clark's Desert Boots, a light blue Oxford shirt.
You gotta roll up the sleeve. Get some common projects.
Get some
Yeah.
common projects. I think it was the J. Crew McAllister boot.
Oh,
Didn't they
Oh
have?
man.
Yeah, she was like, try the J. Crew McAllister boot. I thought, oh, okay,
See,
this is very
there is
different from what I
something
normally wear.
here
It was
now. Like maybe we
interesting.
gotta ask some ladies about how they do, because it is kind of crazy to me that
Yeah.
like the stuff that we get from MFA, like some girls were tapped into it. There's a lot of guys that we know as well who like when they started dating, their girlfriend would suggest things for them, and
I mean,
not to, yeah.
I'm not on like MFA like every day, but I feel like every once in a while I see on my feed like pop up some like someone, it's like, help, my boyfriend like only wears like Legend of Zelda t-shirts and cargo shorts. Like
I
help
mean,
me, it's like help
women,
me convince him.
the secret user of MFA right there.
Yeah, it's like help me to
Yeah.
convince him dress like a grown up. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that's a common type of post on MFA.
Yeah. Well, you know what was actually really weird about it, now that I'm thinking about just looking back on
Hmm.
the timing of that? The person who I was dating, her older brother was a buyer at Union Made in San
Okay,
Francisco.
Oh,
that's how she knew.
And what
okay.
I
We've traced
recall
it
a
now.
memory from spending a summer with her in the Bay Area, seeing his shoe collection, and I
Oh,
just
that's
saw a
cool.
shoe rack of Aldens, and like my jaw just dropped. I was just like, these shoes are ridiculously cool, and I had just gotten started on
I mean, my
dressing
jaw
better.
drops every time I look to my left. That just means I've spent too much money on shoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I was,
it's
dude,
okay.
I was listening to like people like talk, like people I know talk about shoes, and they were like, "What's the most you've ever spent on like clothing?" And someone's like, I think I spent $100 on shoes once, so that's like the most I've ever
And
spent.
I'm like,
dude,
Yeah, yeah, your lips
Crazy.
purse a bit, and you just like want to
they're
like
like, "Hey
hide.
Spencer, how much are those loafers?" I'm like,
Oh, yeah, you're like, oh,
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so your girlfriend at the time starting to give you some advice here. So
Hmm.
when was it like peak MFA for you? Like when did you get to the whole barber jacket, OCBDs, desert boots, cuffed selvage era?
Wow. Ooh, that's a good question. Probably 2015, 2014. Because
Wow.
I
Okay.
wasn't, yeah, because I wasn't, I was lurking on MFA at that time. I wasn't
Hmm.
posting fit pics all that much. I just remember being discouraged because I posted a fit pic where I was wearing an APC denim jacket, an APC new standard pair of denim and both of them I'd worn quite a bit, so they were
Yeah.
faded well. And I had these Yucatan wingtip boots on.
Oh,
So I was
nice.
wearing the denim tuxedo,
Yeah.
white t-shirt, and it got like 3 upvotes. So I was just like, oh damn, like I didn't get as much traction on this fit pic as I wanted to. So I stopped posting for a bit and just
Wow. That
turned.
initial thing was what stopped you right there.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just didn't get much feedback on it.
I
Like no
feel like
comments, just a few upvotes. That was it.
that kind of happened to me because I think I was posting to MFA before Ethan, but then I just like would not really get like any engagement, and like occasionally I just got like a negative comment, and then after like a month of that, I'm like, you know what? Uh, so think about what could have been different if
Yeah. I mean,
it could have
if
been an
people
MFA
just
power
loved you
user.
more.
If they
Yeah.
love
If they had
it.
given me more affection, then I wouldn't be such a
I
cold-hearted
think it's
killer.
so funny because not to flex. I don't really care if I get comments, but uh, I say that with a touch of privilege because my first fits on there were all vintage, so naturally a lot of people commented, and so
Hmm.
I was not encouraged to post, but I kind of was curious to see what would happen, and so I remember again I've told this to Derek, was poppin',
Hmm.
but I remember I wore like a tweed vest with like a black Henley tucked into brown trousers, and I wore like whatever Zara's version of Belgians were, and I was like doing something modern today, and I remember
Yeah.
Met, old power user. I'm not
Oh,
sure if Met was
Matt.
a mod,
Yeah.
but he's still active on there. But Met was like, "You look like a hipster bartender in the worst way possible." But the thing is, it didn't bother me. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny because I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I think not to like make this about me, but like I think back then I never drank, and I never really went out. So I must have like idealized like this hipster bar, like, oh yeah, it's so cool because I'm never gonna be around it. But
Yeah.
like, of course,
When
Yeah.
to
am
other
I gonna be
people,
around a bartender?
yeah. I mean,
But it
Spencer was there
felt
when I first
good.
started drinking. Yeah, it did feel good.
That's the crazy thing about it is that even before you posted the fit pic, you actually felt genuinely good about what you put together.
Yeah,
And I recall just feeling great about it because I enjoyed wearing those APC pieces for a while in
right.
college. It actually felt like the first leap for me is like I'm actually invested in these and I felt good in them. And you do the same with your outfits. And I feel like it's great to put yourself in the shoes
Hmm.
of someone who's trying to find their way in MFA and just think they probably felt good putting this on.
Yeah.
We could
Absolutely,
probably meet them with some kindness, maybe some constructive feedback on it, but I think it's in good faith always. Like they feel good
absolutely.
about what they put together.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I believe in positive reinforcement and positive criticism. I mean, hey, join the Discord. You'll get a earful from me. In Feedback
Yeah.
Thunderdome.
Well, it's gonna be an eyeful
On the
because
feedback
Yeah.
we don't
Oh,
talk
that's
to
right.
you.
You're
We
reading it. Yeah,
yeah.
you're right. But okay, so you did do the MFA thing. So when did it stop? When was it like
Hmm.
starting to be the marker? Like, can you trace the moment where you're like, okay,
Yeah, I want to see the
OCBD,
trajectory.
like
Had
regular chore coats to like, okay, getting fucking Capital, the bone jeans, right? Or
yeah.
like,
Like yeah, when did you start like injecting like the more like avant-garde stuff into your wardrobe, or was it like there
Yeah.
from the because you had this connection to like the buyer from Union Made, so I don't know if you got
And yeah,
any
and
like
Union
cool
Made's not
deals and
exactly
shit.
like Uniqlo. Yeah, it's not like they have
Hmm.
Right.
stuff there that if you see it is not going to be like, oh, typical J. Crew. Like Union Made, in addition to having like Alden's and Selvage Jeans, they had some cool stuff. R.I.P.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
tell
yeah,
us
you
more
were
about that.
starting because you were starting. Yeah, so you're starting with like I guess like like a higher level of awareness of like the possibilities of menswear than most guys who are just like going to Uniqlo or going to J Crew or something.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question. I think So it's the fall of 2015. I was actively posting and commenting on our raw denim on Reddit.
Nice.
That was sick
Yeah.
because I had a healthy rotation of Ironhearts and
Uh-huh.
ABCs, and someone was selling a denim Capital raincoat on raw denim, and
Okay.
I looked at it, and I thought this is such a weird jacket, but I love that it looks like a pea coat. I love this oversized hood because it's denim. It looks less loud than it
Hmm.
actually is. And I won't really be getting questions about it because it's got good pockets. It was wearable in the Bay Area. So I bought that Capital denim raincoat. And I think he's actually a current friend from EHF
Hmm.
right now, which is another weird serendipitous thing that happened in acquiring my first Capital piece. So that actually, I owned that Capital piece for a while, and that was purchased in the fall of 2015. And
Wow.
then I think I think late 2016 or early 2017, I joined EHF, Expensive Human Fashion,
Hmm.
on Discord. And I think that's when everything started accelerating. I went to a lot of people were posting pics of other designers. People were sharing listings of these Japanese brands that you could purchase from a proxy like Sand
Hmm.
Market or Bai. And
Yeah.
then I went to Japan 3 straight years after that.
Nice.
Yeah, the first Japan trip, me and my friend wanted to do mostly shopping, so we hit all the Capital stores in the summer of 2017, and I brought home so much Capital from that trip.
How are the prices over there compared to the United States?
Secondhand, or not secondhand,
Oh,
proxying.
oh, it's the best. I think you should buy directly from them. There's so many Capital fakes out there now on eBay, on
Hmm.
Grailed, on the
And
Real
hey, they gotta
Real.
ask
No
you,
one's
right? They
down.
have to ask you if it's a. Can I get a legit check on this Capital piece, Marco?
Yeah.
Getting the legit checks now, like I have a bunch of block DM requests from people who are
Nice.
just like, hey, sorry to bother you with a legit check, but I was looking at this thing. I
If
thought,
you're
like,
sorry,
damn,
don't do
Daniel.
it. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, or just like if you like something from the designer, try to buy it directly
Right
from
from
them.
them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
proxy directly from Capital if you wanted to, but I know that for some people they feel uncomfortable going through a third party service to bid on something and have it shipped to you from Japan. But I think I think some of that randomness in the sizing, I think the lack of communication almost feels like you're at a online flea market
Hmm.
Ooh,
looking
okay.
for
That's kind of
something you
cool.
really
Okay.
like. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's there's something in the future about like the kind of tangibility of getting experience with clothing, like what that means. So I'm sure we'll
Hmm.
explore that in the future episodes.
Hmm.
But so you joined EHF,
Hmm.
and was this still at a time where you were? I mean, you said you got the capital coat there. Were you still in EHF wearing OCVDs and like salvage jeans? Like,
Hmm.
can you tell me more about like being in that MFA mode, but then seeing all the other stuff and going, "What I actually can get into it," because that's something kind of similar to me, where I'm in EHF now, but like through you and everything, I've always enjoyed. I wouldn't say avant-garde, but like Evan Kenor. I can see the evolution of like
Hmm.
the menswear there. Was that the same thing for you? Like, did you see the connotations between what you were already wearing and like the future Marco that was developing?
Yeah, definitely. I think by that time when I joined EHF, my foundation was Japanese Americana, so engineered garments, needles, or slow, capital.
So already
A
like
lot of
different versions from the
there was
basics. There was already a little bit of
Hmm.
difference.
Yeah, I'd already entered at that point in
Okay.
with kind of that foundation and trying to branch out from it further. And I think what I had found was there were just a lot of great Japanese designer brands out there
Yeah.
that were changing their takes on what we knew as staples or a jacket, a pair of pants. The designs were just wackier,
Hmm.
and that spoke to me in a way because other people were just sharing their listings, and that was brand discovery for me. I didn't really have to go far back then in 2017 to discover a new brand because in EHF at least, I would say the regular user is very tapped into fashion with a capital F,
Mhm.
but less so like the Gucci's and the Bottegas of the world, but more of avant-garde, like Rick Owens.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else am I thinking? Hyder Ackerman. So just
Right.
really, really luxurious, kind of like off like the high street kind of
Mhm.
designer stuff. But there's a healthy mix of influences and style expressions there. So that's what kept me in EHF. And I'm more of like a fly on the wall right now, but I do enjoy what people share there.
Mhm.
Right. But what was it like, when you saw something, what do you think it was that was like, okay, I can do that, or I like this? Do
Yeah, when
you
did you want to stop dressing? Like, I want to dress to like, I don't know, what do Redditors want to like get promoted or something? um, and
Was
just
it?
like instead, it's like I
Yeah.
want this to be like pure like self-expression or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think I know what it was now. So 2017 I fell down the Capital rabbit hole. I saw the Capital smiley boots appear
nice?
on
Yeah.
Oh
Yahoo
yeah.
Japan auctions,
Mm-hmm.
proxied that thing from Japan, and just started wearing those Capital smiley boots to work, to concerts, to like every imaginable context I could find. And people would just comment on the boots. And I just thought like, yeah, like I freaking love these boots. These boots feel like an extension of me. And because they are so wacky, that gave me confidence to try full Capital outfits. From probably 2017 to 2018 was a Capital phase, if you will.
Wow.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to dive deeper on that whole wacky thing you said. Like, no, it's really good because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, there's something about MFA and everything about how the clothing it makes you agnostic. We've been talking a lot about being agnostic on the previous episode about standing out and everything, and
We're talking
how
about not believing in God, but kind of believing.
yeah, but it's like
There might be.
it's
I want to
they don't
believe.
want to make waves, right? Like they kind of want their clothing to not really say anything about them, but it's cool that you saw them and you're like, this is wacky. Did you like, and it feels like do you think that there was something here about, like, as you got into Capital, were you expressing yourself more? Because you said that you were already like into music and dancing. Did you feel
Hmm.
like did you feel like a confidence change or even like a personality change to being more open? Did
Mm.
clothing help with that?
I think it was always there. If
Okay.
I was, if I was being honest with you guys, because back in high school and middle school, I was I didn't have too many outlets outside of baseball, and I didn't really fit in middle school quite well because I would just play baseball games on the weekends, go on tournaments,
Yeah.
hang with my baseball friends, and then play video games. But I
Nice.
had no creative, yeah.
Yeah.
The duality. It was always like this duality, and I would never want to really get to know people because I just got sucked into video games. And maybe that says a lot too, right? The interest in video games means you love the worlds that you fall into. You love the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
music, you love the game design, you
Yeah.
love inputting like controls and then
Mm-hmm.
controlling a character through all of it. So I felt like my mind just wanted to get lost into something
I
back then,
think
but I couldn't put words into it.
there was someone who was I'm really sorry I can't remember who this was on our Discord who was talking about like trying to get his like gamer friends into like fashion, and he was kind of talking like that. It's like, it's like, don't you like when you get like a cool unlockable item or get a cool armor
Yeah.
piece or whatever, and you see it on your character and you feel like badass. It's like that's what I want to do in real life, and I feel like
Mhm.
that's, I don't know, an easy way to to get gamers on our side,
Right.
Yeah.
which we
Th-
need the gamers, so
There's so much overlap, I think.
yeah.
Like what you said, Spencer.
Hmm.
Like gamers, video games. I mean, gamers, fashion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
anime, music.
Because I mean,
Like
you
they're
see
all the same.
how many like fucking like nerdy like kids who aren't really interested in fashion still buy the like black mannequin like Assassin's Creed jackets or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the same
Very
thing,
up.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
still like
Yeah.
looking at something and being like, I think I can wear that, or it feels like me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You feel like another character. You feel empowered as another character
Yeah,
when
Right.
you put
exactly.
that piece of clothing on. And
S-
yeah, saying
yeah,
something
no.
about yourself too and your interests.
So was it like, the more you got into the kind of designer clothing, did you feel like that was a more accurate representation of who you are, or do you think that it was something separate, like, because I know, obviously for all of us, clothing is a form of a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I buy like a Star Wars Lego, like I know I'm not in Star Wars, right? That's what makes clothing so interesting, because it's like it's a hobby, but it's also something that you can wear. But you said that you were always this kind of person. So did you think that there's something about like this type of designer clothing, or this the subsect of designer, Japanese Americana, and the variations thereof,
Mm.
was that like, oh, this is like these designers are making clothes like for me, like this is like they get who I am? Was it kind of like that?
Mm. Yeah, the foundation is in utility, right? So the
Yeah.
great thing about Americana and vintage is that it's practical and it's useful and never really gets falls out of style. But
Mm-hmm.
what I was most impressed about with Japanese designers, especially, was they just pushed the envelope of what's wearable and they made a chore coat look really weird and
Yeah.
crazy. And if you marry the utility with the craziness of the vision, I think that's what really landed with me, because I still wanted to put on things that were useful, that allowed
Mm-hmm.
for me to move through life pretty effortlessly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I could just like radiate some like positive energy with a drunk Capital suit, for example. The drunk stripe suit, for example,
Yeah.
is just like
Yeah.
I just wear that so that other people can just be like, huh, or people can just be like, oh my goodness, what is that
Mm-hmm.
kind of
I
thing?
mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about like the how like I mean, we have our vintage thing where we like wearing damn suits all the time. But we had our episode about practicality and how like, actually like the sport coat has just a lot of pockets and stuff like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I get when like I also like feeling like I am prepared for anything when I leave the
Yeah.
house. I don't like um yeah, I don't like going out there and being like, okay, well, if I needed to, I don't know. I like being able to just like do like fit into any situation
Yeah.
that I needed to be in. But I did want to
Yeah.
ask more, like just talking about like the utility and stuff, because like some of your hobbies, like the like motorcycling and dancing, those are things that like kind of require like very specific articles of clothing. Like for motorcycling, you have to have some degree of protection, like from
Mm-hmm.
like in case you fall and just like from the
Mm-hmm.
wind, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so like I'm wondering like how your hobby is kind of like if that influences your style just on a day-to-day basis, or if that has kind of like influence like the proportions or whatever that you're into.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great question. I mean, one of I think one thing I picked up, and this is when I first moved to LA, is
Mm-hmm.
that people watching at raves and at warehouse parties was a great influence into where my style direction went in after the full Capital phase, because
Mm.
people were just I saw a lot of rash guards being worn. I saw mesh tank tops
Mm-hmm.
being
There it
worn, and
is.
then I saw people wear just like big oversized shirts as well. And there and then that clicked for me, because now whenever I'm going out dancing at a class, I'm usually wearing a rash guard as a base layer for moisture wicking, and then an oversized t-shirt so that my body can move, and then of course like wearing the track pants and rubber shoes. But that I tend to wear a lot, actually, when I'm like motorcycling. It's the moisture wicking from the rash guard is really great during the summer months when it's just really hot out and I'm wearing my leathers. So
Mm-hmm.
it's both of them actually kind of inform each other now. And what I would say about motorcycling is I'm wearing leather pants out
Yeah.
more often now. Like in
Okay.
casual situations, actually like going to a bar or going somewhere different. Like Sylvia's birthday, for example, I
Yeah.
wore leather pants because it was cold, and I liked how insulated they were, and I liked how bright they were to contrast what I was already wearing. So I wear leather pants a bit more now, and I love my engineer boots from Wesco. So those are good boots for riding. Those are also great boots for being off the bike. But in terms of leather jackets, I usually still reserve those for when I'm with the bike.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
which is interesting. Like I haven't worn my Perfecto jackets in a casual setting very recently. The only Perfecto jacket I would wear in a casual setting would be the Capital fluffy fleece.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because
jacket.
you have the fleece one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's not really an aggressive looking piece when I wear it
No.
out. Someone will see that when I'm at a bar or like out in the world and be like, okay, that's Marco's jacket that he's had for 5 years now. But when I'm seen, I think, wearing a black leather jacket,
Mhm.
people will just wonder like, what happened to you? Where, like, this is a very like not you jacket, you know? It's
I
Right.
wonder if
interesting.
you could make that you with like different pants or like a crazy shirt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I want to subvert it more, and I want to style it
Yeah.
for
Not
a
in like
less like
a
in the bike setting.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, what is your kind of process for like your style nowadays? Like, if you could describe it, or if even if you had like a goal with your look. I know you said something about blending
Yeah.
practicality with the design, also reading positive vibes. Yeah, how
Hmm.
would you describe your overall approach to style now?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Thank you.
It's entirely dependent on context. It's entirely dependent on context.
Okay.
I think I have a modular enough wardrobe at this point where
Which some people
I
might
can
not
wear.
see, right? Like they kind of see. I think of a lot of people will be like, "Whoa, those are some crazy items." But through knowing you, I do see like there's maybe not a uniform. There's like vibes and there's interchangeable
Mhm.
stuff here.
There's a
But yeah,
through
sorry.
line.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah, exactly. To what Spencer said, there's a through line, and it's definitely going to be based on the aesthetic choice and the aesthetic intention behind a piece of clothing. Like I personally would still not mix something very formal and something very casual. But
Okay.
by putting some elements together, for example, like if there is one more formal looking piece and I put a lot of casual around it, then there's a bit more intentionality behind that. I try not to put too much contrast of elements beside each other unless I'm emotionally feeling like I want to choose violence that
Mm.
day. I want to choose the most extreme contrast of things together because I felt like it. And that actually reminds me of Mordecai Rubenstein, Mr.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mort. He, like, seeing his pictures way back when I was like on Tumblr and starting to get into menswear. He wore a leather perfecto jacket with a spear point collar and a tie.
Mm.
That was insane. I thought that was one of the coolest things to see. But there's definitely, I draw a lot of inspiration from how he just mixes things.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
could see that.
So where do you get inspiration from? Like, do you follow a lot of people, or do you think that like? I know that you said that a lot of these garments have like their own aesthetic intent, right?
Hmm.
So when you make an outfit, do you play up like the context around it? Do you play up the, or the actual item? Like, I'm kind of curious how you make the outfit. Um,
Mm.
safe, you can pick the context, make this your own kind of hypothetical here. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, because like I guess for our to make it similar to us, it's like, okay, when we dress up, are we like, okay, all 70s, or do we sometimes we pick out like, okay, I want to
Mm.
wear this tie,
Yeah.
what goes with this tie. You know, like there's like two ways of making the outfit. So how do you do it, or do you do
Yeah.
both?
It's a good. Yeah, that's very interesting. I like to build around one piece,
Okay.
and even though, and my personal philosophy is, even though someone would say, "Oh, you can't mix like Capital with Bodhi."
Mhm.
I'm gonna
People
try
say
to
that.
mix Capital with Bodhi. Yeah, I'm just gonna do something a bit more unexpected
Hmm.
with a set of designers, and it still ties back to like elements of one piece from a designer who's very different from another designer. As long as you can find that through line between elements of them,
Yeah.
then you can really start to mix and match. And that's why I'm actually going back into more of a look for vintage stuff
Mm.
mindset, because vintage is very modular. It can mix with designer really well.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking as actively on Grailed or Japanese auctions to find things. So that is all to say, I think it depends on my mood. There's
I
some
love it.
days where I
Mood.
intentionally yeah, it's like, what do I want to give with this outfit today? Do I want to give a lot of color matching? So I'm just gonna find a lot of similarly toned stuff and then
Okay.
let them
Okay.
play off one another. So that would, I would say, like, that is first tier. That would be like, okay, I want to put something like relatively air quote easy for me for
Mhm.
that day. So I'm just gonna find similarly colored stuff and match them. Next tier would probably be contrasts of stuff. And by contrast, I could probably, that probably includes like color blocking. Like yesterday, I wore my crop purple jacket with yellow faux leather pants and like an orange floral shirt,
Nice.
because I wanted like just something that kind of looked intentional because of how loud all of the things were. So like a maximalist kind of, let's go for contrast would be level
Right.
2. And then I think like level 3 I haven't thought about much recently, because it's too damn hot here to get to level
Yeah.
3. And level 3 for me would just be like stack the jackets on top of each other,
Mm.
like tuck some pants into my boots. And I haven't quite gotten that chance to do so in LA, but that's what I would say would be like level 3. It's like, okay, have
Yeah.
different layers and each layer speaks something like different.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, it's I like you said, there's a lot of similarities there with like kind of mensweary kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
layers would be like for me, it's hard for me to make an outfit if it's not a suit because I love pairing jackets with everything. I mean, obviously there are
Yeah.
classic menswear outfits that have just a shirt and
Yeah.
trouser, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta wear all the layers.
It's
It just
easier to
feels
have
more
it.
interesting. It's
Yeah,
complex.
exactly. I was gonna say it
Yeah.
just feels more interesting when you have someone else going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why mesh tanks are great, guys.
I
Tank
mean,
tops. I'm just trying to push the mesh tank
I
agenda for
know. That's the
I
kind
mean,
of
hey,
Sean
if you want to talk
direction.
about like vintage thing, you can say it's like that's classic resort wear right there. They
yeah. I mean,
were
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is illustrations and advertisements of guys wearing mesh like knit tees,
Yeah.
um, in the 1930s. And I was there. I remember me and Marco were both at the Rose Bowl, and it was pouring rain. And the guy was closing up, and he had a 50s like mesh T-shirt. And he's like, "I'll give it to you for $20." And I was like, "Nah, I don't think I'll wear it." But like,
man.
20 bucks for a novelty might be kind of fun because now I could wear that instead of a terry cloth towel shirt to the fucking beach.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of makes sense
Yeah.
for relaxing.
Yeah, just like have a hot boy summer, man.
Huh.
Like
That's
we're
true.
supposed to, it's due time for hot boy summer for everyone.
I mean, apparently it's Short King Spring right now, so
Oh, hell
shout
yeah.
Is it
out to all my
really?
Short Kings. Yeah, you didn't see it
Shout outs.
on TikTok.
Shout outs are in order
Yeah.
for the short kings. Yes.
So obviously, Marco, your outfits are kind of compared to compared to us, or to compared to classic menswear, they're kind of out there. I'm curious where
Hmm.
you are. How you deal with like standing out. that's kind of been like a theme lately for Spencer and I. We've been kind of
Mm-hmm.
exploring in our previous episode, like how come we've gotten, not just a thick skin, but how come we embrace the idea of standing out. Maybe it helps that you're also in LA with us, but you have a lot of cool hobbies and interests, music and everything, but you also kind of have a day job too. So how do you find the balance of your very bold attire,
Mm-hmm.
um
You're almost doing
and
the Scott Ackerman. How do you balance work and family?
how work and family? But yeah, how do you personally deal with standing out, and yeah, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, whew.
It's a good
Hmm.
question. So
Yeah. I'm definitely thinking like
Bangers today.
in terms of yeah, so many bangers, so many good questions. When it comes to personal philosophy, I think I'm on this earth to just play around and
hell yeah,
just
brother.
like like what did our ancestors do? They had to hunt, eat, survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're at a point in society where there's so many opportunities to play and to just exist as you are. And I think in a way, when I choose to stand out or choose to present myself in a certain way
Mm,
or get into certain hobbies, I think I'm reflecting onto other people a version of themselves they're not nurturing, a version of themselves they're not comfortable bringing to the table yet.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I just want to be a mirror for people who are doubting an expansion of their identity, an expansion of their interests. So I think of it as just I'm a messenger. I'm a messenger sent by you to get
It's
to
like
deliver
fate,
yourself
kind
this
of.
message.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You're
That's
supposed to see this so you can expand yourself just a
you
bit
know
more.
that's such a great point, Marco, because obviously I've met some of your friends and some of them have become my friends as well.
Mhm.
Specifically thinking of like Sylvia and everything like that.
Yeah.
Um that yeah, it's so cool to like, the idea of, instead of being a blank canvas for people to project whatever they want onto you, to be so bold that they somehow get any kind of signal from you and it reflects on them. I think that's a really cool way of I mean, it's a cool way of like not just thinking, but like of kind of presenting yourself. Because I feel like Spencer and I have done similar things where, like we said at the top here, a lot of our friends, at least our really close ones that we hang out with a lot, kind of come at the same way. Like they kind of pick up fashion, they kind of pick up these hobbies or
Mhm.
express themselves in a certain way. I mean, Spencer's always had like Jay, right, for example, or I've had MJ, where maybe they're a bit on the tamer side compared to us, but then
Mhm.
by being, we kind of get to show them what it could be, and they don't have to dress
Hmm.
exactly like us, but they are able to kind of say, okay, well, I can do that also. I can do it in my own way,
Yeah.
and I feel like, I mean, also through knowing you, I've also kind of had a little bit, not like a style evolution, but a little bit of a more comfortability in myself. And I mean, I obviously have said that in previous blog posts, you
Mhm.
kind of encapsulate what I mean by like vague menswear, where I can see the MFA-ness in it. Like you still wear like canvas work pants,
Yep.
and you wear pair of boots, which is an MFA favorite. You still own your
Mhm.
barber jacket, but
Yeah.
then you wear short coats, which or you wear the like vintage short jackets, Evan Kenori
Yeah.
stuff, and it's so similar, but it's done in a way that makes sense for you, just like how Spencer and I can wear OG 107s and white sneakers, or military pants, but they're done in the way that we want them to. And it's kind of an
Hmm.
example of, if people can see the through line, can see the thematic idea of where you're going, they can probably pick it up somehow, and kind of do it their
Yeah.
way.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah. And you're inviting them to try something.
yeah, to
Like
Yeah.
participate,
you
exactly.
can yeah, we're trying to get more people a seat at the table, if you will. And for most people they're intimidated by trying to join the table because they don't have a peer. They don't have someone they know who can just say like, "Let me show you the way to the table and let me help you on this journey." Kind of thing. And no one really talks about that enough, I think.
Mm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
the
yeah.
evangelical aspect of NASCAR. Spreading
I
the
can
spreading
show
the
you the
word.
And
Yeah.
world.
and it's kind of
Aladdin
funny
vibes, yeah.
on that thing, right? Because it's like I've growing up Christian and evangelical and everything like that. Um, I always found when I was talking to people that the way that they got into it was always just being around someone who always had like a good attitude, positive attitude and everything like that. Like not, I'm not a Christian, but I could see how others, like if they were around someone who's really nice, they go, oh well, I love God and I like doing my thing. That's a better way of getting people into Christianity as opposed to like, well, this is the correct way of doing it. And so I think it's
Yes.
kind of fun to like in that aspect, like you're obviously Margaret, like you're like living life, you're enjoying clothing. That's what people pick up from it, as opposed to like, oh, there goes the man in the gray suit, I love how normal he looks, I gotta be
Huh.
normal like him you know and maybe
Yeah.
there are people out there like that too, but I mean, at least for the people in the company that we keep, being bold is kind of like not like it's like an invitation and a litmus test of how people can connect with us.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Marco.
No, it's a good point you brought up. Like, it's great to have friends who are bold and just have intention behind what they
Hmm.
do. They have intention behind how they live their life too. And
Yeah.
there's this whole spectrum of expression that exists. But I think the commonality between people who choose to stand out and people who are just a bit more, let's say they're a bit more reserved, but
Sure.
they're still intentional about bringing people in. They're still intentional about why they are maybe a bit more reserved. I think
Yeah.
that like those two things go hand in hand together, and that's why having like that diverse set of friends. You may not have like bold, not all of your friends, for example, may not be bold dressers, but then you have friends who are maybe into like ceramics or like woodworking, and they're so into that you just see that and say like, wow, I love the intentionality that
Hmm.
that person brings to their life.
That's exactly it. I feel like everyone has their passion. I think we may not be friends with fashion people, but they all have something that they enjoy, that they put themselves into and get something out of.
Yeah.
um so on that note now, obviously you've been doing this for a long time, you've been featured a lot, you have a very, to me, an iconic style, um that inspires me. But you also have a very iconic lifestyle, like
Huh.
you're talking about like the warehouse stuff. You post all of this great stuff on your stories. You've even told me that you'll buy extra tickets to concerts because you'll never know if a friend wants to join you.
Oh,
I
that's
think
fun.
that's really
Yeah.
cool. So at this point, what do you think informs like the style more? Like, is it like does your lifestyle inform your clothing? Because
Mm.
now I remember when you first got a motorcycle, like you were telling me like you were kind of trying to get into it and everything, and then all of a sudden like here you are. I think did you buy a second one too?
Yeah, I
Was
bought a
that
second
yeah?
one
See, there you go.
recently. Yeah,
Not the
it's
Outrigger.
over.
Yeah,
It's like whoa.
you
Never
know,
getting your life back from that machine.
Yeah, it's
but
my third life crisis
Yeah.
purchase, guys. A
damn,
second motorcycle,
before
baby.
30 too. Not even three
Yeah,
decades in.
exactly.
But yeah, I'm kind of curious about this kind of pull between like lifestyle and clothing, and obviously the answer is that it's kind of one and the same at some point here. But
Hmm.
yeah, tell me more about like this kind of blend, like this idea of Marco is like not just clothes, it's all this stuff pulling together.
Yeah. The
Do
whole
you feel like
person
anything
behind the
is
clothes.
more
The whole
do
person.
you feel like anything takes precedent on this like spectrum here?
Oh, what do you? To clarify your question, does my lifestyle take precedence now, or does my clothes,
Yeah, like I
or
guess like what like in your clothing decisions here, like
Yeah.
is it
Does your
still
clothing inform your lifestyle? Or does your lifestyle inform your clothing?
yeah,
mm,
at this point, because you've been doing
at
this for a
this
while
point?
now and you've explored a lot of different hobbies.
Mm, it's a good question. Right now I'm gonna say lifestyle
Hmm.
Okay.
informs clothing purchases because right right now all I'm looking for on eBay on Grailed are colored leather motorcycle jackets and
There
like
you go. All
leather
right.
motocross pants. So like
Yeah.
I'm going like full into just loud, well cut, well made motorcycling clothing.
Hmm.
Because I spend most of my free time these days. It's either on Elden Ring, concerts,
Yeah.
or motorcycling. So so I figured like if I'm spending the most time on the bike, like it just feels great to have options to wear. And I would say it would probably come back around again. Like I would say like the great thing about where I'm at now, I think, is I can pull something from my wardrobe that I can work on the bike with. I can pull something from my wardrobe that I can wear to a warehouse party with. So so all of the pieces are already there
Mm-hmm.
to access my hobbies and my interests. I just think like right now, okay, if I'm going to buy a new piece of clothing, it's gonna go into what I'm like full sending on right now, which is
Yeah.
motorcycling. You know, so all the pieces are there right now. So I think that's why it's so like I'm not looking for anything new aside from something to wear more of while I ride. It's very
That
interesting. Yeah.
that is so apt. I think after interviewing John and Jason, I find myself connecting with all of our friends because there's just something so similar in all of us. Um, and I say that because it's like, I've also been thinking about like the lifestyle. We've had conversations about authenticity. We've had debates on practicality and everything.
Mhm.
And it's really cool. Like, I wear menswear because I like the design of it, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
it kind of serves my
Mhm.
lifestyle. I
Yeah.
obviously I don't do like there is no set lifestyle for menswear anymore. Like I don't work in a corporate job, but like
Right.
for the
Right.
purposes of
Right.
like, if I'm always writing about clothes, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if I could be like, taking photographs, or if
Yeah.
I'm reading, like
Mhm.
it just kind of feels practical. Spencer,
I
you know,
mean,
you you wear.
I talked about how I like wearing like military jackets when I'm covering events because they have, I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, like you were talking about earlier, they have a lot of fucking pockets, and
The
like
pockets are great.
I get,
Yeah.
yeah, they're great. I get to stick
Pocket man.
notebooks and extra camera batteries and voice recorders, whatever in there. So it's like I on the one hand I think it looks cool, but on the other hand, it's
It
like
kind of makes
genuinely,
sense.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
practical.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this kind of reminds me of like, a really great post you did called like having the soul of clothes, like the soul of clothing. And you kind of
Mm.
I remember like you said like, oh, this is just a rant, but it's so like really well thought out. It's I guess no, it's not a rant. You said it's a short essay. I guess there is intentionality on this kind of thing. But you talk about a lot of things here. You talk about clothing as an extension of yourself, clothes as the vessels of stories, you know. And
Mm.
you also have a part here where you talk about like, you want to caution people against uh the idealization of things as like, you'll feel complete after you get there because you know something that we've all thought of too is that despite all these years later after me and Spencer honing our style, we're still kind of figuring stuff out. Like
Hmm.
we
Yeah,
don't tie
yeah.
that closely there. So I don't know, can you talk more, maybe to our listeners about like the soul of clothing, and the value that you place in clothes because you are clearly so connected to the soul of your clothes, like you said, like it has to serve you. You keep things for quite a while. But yeah,
Mm.
tell me about the soul of clothing.
Yeah. Ooh. Let's pull this post up. 'Cause
Gotta jog the
it's a
memory
bit
a
of
little
it.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean I just thought that one day I just thought that we imbue meaning upon our clothes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And even though even though clothes are things, there was still a lot of energy, resources, and time put into making those clothes. Let's say you buy the clothes secondhand. Someone's story was already passed on
Hmm.
to the piece of clothing. So I would say like when you think about like the soul of clothes, you just like think of them as again, I'll just use the term vessels. Like I like using the term vessel because it just means that it's carrying memories, it's carrying wear with it, it's carrying meaning with it
Hmm.
through its whole life cycle until like it might get disposed of, or it might just like sit somewhere for a very long time. But um, there is a soul to it. It's still very much like energy manifested into something that's wearable.
Yeah.
And what I like about it was like a rambling, but what I like about saying like, oh, a piece of clothing has soul is like there's a reason why you pull that piece like out of your wardrobe. There's
Mm,
like you're intrinsically connected to that piece of clothing because there's a design aspect to it, or maybe there is a nostalgic or emotional attachment to it
hmm
because maybe it was like a gift to you, or there was a certain memory attached to it. So I just think like, okay, if you can ask yourself these questions about like why you wear the things you wear or why you like the things you like, you do gain a deeper appreciation for what you already have. And I think that unlocks like a way of just experimenting further with what you have, but also holding on to clothes you like a lot more.
Yeah.
um
I mean, that's yeah. It's something that we want people to feel from their clothing, like this
yeah,
idea of the soul. Again, one of the reasons why I've always wanted to have you on the pod is because I feel like the way you feel about clothes is how I wish people thought about menswear. There is this cool
yeah,
aspect, that Spencer and I have talked about, like about design, because like it's not that we just blindly like vintage, like we like, the way it looks
Yeah.
and we're
And I
connected to
mean,
it.
I was gonna say
hmm,
that if you're talking about the soul of clothing, I'd say that like vintage stuff or more
yeah,
like avant-garde stuff is going to have more soul than like a random like Uniqlo or even like more high end like I don't know. I'm not gonna
yeah.
go too high end. I'll just say Hugo Boss, like something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, like there's just more individuality, more like intentionality in the kind of stuff that you wear, which I think
yeah.
is like lends itself to just like thinking about like the soul of menswear or the soul
Yeah.
of
I
clothing.
yeah. I love that you brought up that point,
Mm-hmm.
Spencer,
Well, thank
because
you.
it does.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Spencer. It sounds a lot. I mean, we've observed that fast fashion, something that's easily accessible, just feels like a copy paste,
Yeah.
mass marketed, mass produced, and mass consumed for people that purchasing fast fashion sometimes feels like it to me. I perceive that as autopilot on your
Mm.
consumption. I'm
Ah.
autopiloting to purchase something trendy, or I'm autopiloting to purchase something essential so that
Yeah.
I don't have to think about it too much. And I will also caveat what I'm saying by adding that fashion and clothes aren't a priority for everyone. Some people just want to tick the box over it, but maybe if we're talking about like finding your style, if we're talking about contentedness in your wardrobe, there has to be like an intentionality towards like soul, finding
Mm.
intentionally designed or vintage pieces that kind of like speak to you, and you could just say like, I can wear this like anytime because this is aligned with my own values of what I like to wear.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of an expanded version of like, what do you want to look like? That's something that we always tell people for
Yeah.
asking for advice. But like, like what do you feel connected with? Like, what like do you need the navy blazer? Like what feelings do you get from wearing this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Not as opposed to like, oh, I need it because of the fact that MFA said I have to do it, or because it's so versatile. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you're a good case study in the fact that things may not. I mean, things are versatile. We have that concept of like forced versatility,
Mm-hmm.
where we're like we like it, so we
Mm-hmm.
make it versatile with everything because we
Yeah.
just do it. And I feel like it's so easy to see with your style that you are clearly so connected with the idea of the soul. Um, I guess this is not a gotcha question. Um, but we not to spring this on you,
Yeah.
but there is. I
Yeah.
mean, it's also in the outline we made. But you know, you also sell a lot of your clothes as well. Like when you move out of these moods, how do you feel
Mm-hmm.
then about like the soul? Like, is it does it feel bad that you're giving up these clothes? Is it losing? Because for some
Yeah.
context, right? Like I think Spencer and I are probably the worst people to talk to about culling your wardrobe because we keep
Yeah.
so much stuff.
Dude, I have like a ton of stuff in my garage that I keep saying it's like I'm gonna sell this. But like every 2 weeks I'll go down there and like look through the bins and like take one or two things back up. I'm like, nah, I'm
See?
not.
No, I mean
I love that. I love
Yeah.
archiving. That's
I
Yeah.
like
mean,
that's a
yeah.
really great thing to
It
do.
kind of feels like I
Yeah.
just have like a vintage store in my garage,
Oh,
Yeah.
which is kind of
dude,
fun.
I mean, we had when
That's
Spencer.
LA bingo right there.
Yeah.
You got your
Yeah,
own vintage clothing showroom in your garage.
there it is. I mean, I don't store for thing. I don't store anything. Everything's right behind me, so it's like I constantly get inspired and see stuff that I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna wear this again. Um,
Mm,
and so, but to your point
yeah.
here, so for the reason why I don't give this stuff up, and maybe it's probably similar for Spencer too, is that we do a lot of effort into finding stuff. We might
Yeah.
not be going to like the
Mm,
bins, but we do hunt a lot on eBay. Our process is not easy, which we always tell people, like, it's not that it's you can't do this, it's that it'll take a lot of time.
You have
yeah.
to
And
build the
then,
wardrobe, man.
yeah, and in my aspect too, like I work really closely with people like Dave to make the pattern for my trousers, or with Kiyoshi
Right.
to make those stuff. So I feel very closely connected to my clothes, which makes it hard for me to kind of give
Mm,
off. And
yeah. Yeah.
and I know this is different with like custom clothing versus like ready to wear and stuff like that. So how do you when you give something up, when you move into a different mood, how does that impact the way that you feel about the soul of those clothes? Like,
Mm,
not to say that,
yeah.
oh, do you hate your clothes now? Are they
Yeah.
nothing to you? But I am curious about this, because it's fun to be like really connected. But I think what people assume is that when you are that connected to your clothes, you have to stay there. But we obviously, all of us have had evolutions. So how do you factor in evolution with the soul of clothes, and
Mm,
and
yeah.
physically giving up the old pieces?
Yeah, I mean, change is constant, right?
Yeah,
And the reason why I chose to use vessel is because this piece of clothing that has a soul with it and a story with it gets passed on to someone
Mhm.
else. And I think having an intentional mindset where I want to sell this to, let's say, an Instagram follower or someone on Grail for probably lower than what they'd find given the rarity. I think I'm inviting someone to find joy from that clothing and wear it a lot more than what I'm wearing, because just this is just a personal value of mine too, and
right.
not everyone shares the same values with me, but I'd rather like have a constant like wear of the stuff I have and just kind of like wear it to the ground
Mhm.
more than having like always like a constant variety of things, because I think a lot of the clothes I have are very practical. I would say most are pretty hard wearing, but I do enjoy having pieces that I can wear out a lot and not worry about it getting stained or it getting dirty. I could just like wash it the next day, or I can just like
Yeah.
do a
Mhm.
20-minute like hand wash session and it's all clean. Like I'll use Bodhi as an example. Like I would love to wear my Bodhi to a warehouse party, but I can't.
Huh.
Yeah,
I
no,
can
you
only
can't
wear
do
my
it. You
Bodhi
can't do
to
it.
like a museum or like a nice dinner, and the stuff I don't want to sell are the things like I can wear when I'm out dancing, when I'm out motorcycling, when I'm out like at a warehouse party. So truly then the few opportunities I get to put together like an intentional outfit, I think about it so much. I'm just
Mhm.
like, I'm almost paralyzed by like what I want to wear because I haven't gotten a chance to wear like the Bodhi pieces or the designer pieces in so long, because I I spend a lot more time on like other things right now. So it's almost like this is kind of a sunk cost, like living like
Yeah.
of this thing being in my wardrobe. Which is not to say like there's anything wrong with holding on to the stuff you love. I actually wish I kind of missed that time. I had a chapter in my life when I just had a really, really, really huge wardrobe, and it was like really overflowing with clothes. But I've found that the constant in my life has been changes and pivots and reprioritizing certain things. Like 3 years ago, I was like, I'm unsure about motorcycling. I'm gonna
Yeah.
like stick it out with
Yeah.
like fashion and dancing and concerts. And now 3 years later, I'm starting to like just sell more stuff because well, I still love clothes. I still actively enjoy and participate in it, but I'm not at this point I'm not personally seeking new pieces all the time. I've kind of rebalanced and reprioritized where my time and energy is going.
Wow, that's very, it's interesting to see like the whole thing about like the big wardrobe because I think that's where Spencer and I are at right now. But
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to your point about like kind of figuring out where maybe not like the clothing priorities are, but like the lifestyle priorities are, I'm kind of in a similar boat where you would think that being the pandemic, I would stop wearing ties. I mean, there's a couple of critics of ours, or at least of me, where like, they just don't believe, right? But I'm like, like, no, I genuinely love wearing a sport coat and a tie all the time. I love it. I might not wear it the whole day for practicality reasons of like, I want to be able to cook some stuff. I want to be able to do errands and everything. I want to go to the gym. But what's the thing I'm starting to think is it's on cost of some of the casual stuff. And it's not that it's one of those things where I'm gonna be casual at some point. Like I can't always wear a tie, but even now,
Yeah.
even when things don't matter, I am wearing the sport coat and tie, and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
Um, and it's kind of fun to think about, like, yeah, about the soul of clothing. The good thing is that these other clothes were acquired quite cheaply, or at least in the grand scheme of things, compared to like Shell Cordovan, these things
Right.
are pretty good. So it's like it's almost a sunk, it's almost like an opportunity cost, or it's too much work to even get rid of it because then it's like you're putting in so much effort than compared to when you actually got it. Um,
Yeah. That's a
but
good point. But the other flip side to that too is like, let's say something I'm trying to list for a high price, like doesn't sell. Maybe that's just a sign that I keep it. And I'm like,
that's
okay,
true.
word, like, cool. No one wants this, then I'll enjoy this.
Yeah,
I'll
you'll yeah
hold on to it.
you'll make it
So
work.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting, like the way that you have approached clothing and
Mhm.
lifestyle and presenting yourself is so similar to how we do it and how we want other people to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Have
cool to
you
see, yeah, such like a
I mean
different style with that
and
same mindset.
it's exactly, it's proof. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Yeah.
you've always had like the sad mindset in a sense, right? Like you've just
Yeah.
been
Always.
I mean, that's
Sad
why
boys
we've been
unite.
friends. Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's so important to have this connection here because people don't see menswear as like a form of fashion, even though like there's like fashion trends, but I mean fashion as a form of like personal expression, to be the same thing as like you connect with a piece from Bodhi or from Evan Kenoy or from Rick Owens and be like, well, I feel that way about my suit, or about
Mm-hmm.
this collar, about this tie.
Yeah.
um and it's hopefully the guys listening will
Yeah.
learn how easy it is that this mindset can be applied across
Yeah.
everything. um
Right. Yes.
and
They're all lines that
mhm,
are running parallel to each other. Like
yes,
they look different from one another. That like the aesthetic differences are extreme, but at the end of the day, Rick Owens Ramones, those are Converses. Rick
yep,
Owens like wax denim jacket, that's pulled from like denim jackets and like
Mhm.
old motorcycling jackets. Let's see. The like most stuff from Bodhi, like those are those used fabrics from like the 50s and
yeah,
60s, and
and they
there's like
look like chore
Bodhi
coats. I
jackets.
mean, they
Yes,
look like them. Like
exactly.
that's what they are.
They're
You
all
know.
vintage aesthetics like applied as well. It's just that, contemporary designers, any modern designers, they're like very shishi and they have like all this like marketing to like bring like the old world back into like 2022, but like it's always been there. Like vintage clothing, like menswear, like
Right.
those things are always going to be the original reference points
Mhm.
Yeah.
for a lot of designer clothes.
And I think that's why I think Spencer and I kind of knew that early on. I mean, even comparing different eras of menswear to each other, you can see like, okay,
Yeah.
well, the '70s is just doing the '30s collegiate look with like the flared trousers and the pagoda
Mm,
shoulders.
Yeah, you
It's
can
just more
yeah,
see.
exaggerated. Armani is clearly doing the bold look of like the
yeah,
'40s with like the
yeah.
dropped button stance and the big lapels and the big shoulders. And so like that's why we
Mm,
could never really knock designer clothing, because I mean it's we see it there, we see the references, and even avant-garde. I mean, there's plenty of like weird designer stuff from the 30s and 40s. We don't necessarily like buy it, but it all existed. I know art as expression. This is why we said that like taste is so, I mean, at least I was trying to say taste is super subjective, and it's fun to talk about the commonalities of things. I mean,
yes.
I think I remember,
Yeah.
I'm always tying stuff back to what I'm reading because I'm a little nerd now for some reason. But there's a book I'm reading about photography, about exploring like similar subjects but from different photographers. And I think it's kind of cool to see like, are they from the same era? Like, is that the connective tissue, or do they find similarities just based aesthetically? Like a picture of like the person's back could be like, Georgia O'Keeffe did that, and this other photographer did it. And if you didn't know who it was, you'd say, "Oh, that's just Georgia O'Keeffe." But there is some intentionality behind it. There is some difference
Mhm.
there,
Mm,
artistically. And even though they are doing, I guess, visually similar things, that's kind of the opposite of what you're saying, but like the approach could be different. But just there's always these kind of fun ways to kind of see the commas and through lines of everything. And Marco, you're kind of a great example of that. um I guess my last question for you is like, do you ever see yourself like kind of coming full circle and like making the clothes that you envision for yourself, or that you see yourself
Yeah.
mm,
wearing?
yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah.
To be honest, it'd be great to one day be in a position where I could
Mhm.
just full time design, make stuff. So it's I think the difficulties conceptualizing, storyboarding, and just
Yeah.
trying to work with materials and finding the right hardware, and I think in engaging in a bit of this exercise, like
Yeah.
prototyping and sample making
Because it's, I
through a
mean,
friend, yeah,
I
it's
also have to
challenging.
imagine that it's hard kind of like figuring out like like the okay, like this is what I want to make, but it's like I know that if I were to start a brand, um I don't think many people would be interested in it, because it would just be like a bunch of like, I don't know, like it would just be the same short coat in like a bunch of different colors and shit. I would just be making
Mm,
stuff that I want to wear every day.
mm.
And
Yeah,
so I'm
but it's
wondering
about the
like, yeah,
story.
how do
Yeah.
you be like, okay, well, I want to make this for like me, obviously I want to make this my style, but I want to make sure other people can like buy into it
Yeah, is
as well.
is that
Mm,
something you think about? I mean, obviously, you
Because
don't.
I'd like, without like compromising, like, oh, I don't want to make this like just boring or whatever, but
Yeah,
you know.
hypothetically
yeah.
speaking, if you had your, if would you? I mean,
Yeah.
again, is that even a part of the question? Like, would you want to make clothes that other people would want to buy?
I mean, hopefully, right? Hopefully they'll want to buy it. But I think I just want to tell a story. I want to bring people into a world where the clothes make sense, and the
Mm.
clothes make sense in the world because
Mm-hmm.
it will still have a foundation of practicality and utility. But what I'm imbuing, hopefully, like let's say in the future,
Yeah.
hopefully what I can imbue is just a mindset that these like practical and like useful clothes, like they may seem costumey, but they make a lot of sense to me, and I think it
Hmm.
makes sense with the right person. I think the right person who's intentional will look at it and say, I like this story, I like how this looks. um
Yeah, no, that's a good way of thinking about it. I guess that just brought up a question for me: is do you think that people need to have your lifestyle in order to dress like you?
mm,
Like, because that's
ooh,
something
good
I think about now.
question. Yeah.
We kind of touched on evangelizing through clothing, right?
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes at the end of the day, it's like, like you said, people will get it if they kind of have your mindset, and sometimes people with that mindset need like end up having your similar hobbies. But something about a costume is that it can't be applicable to everyone, right? Like there's like this weird idea of cosplay. That's what makes it cosplay. Like you feel like you're inhabiting something else. So do you think that, with your style or and in the clothing, whether you make it or not, is it important to have your lifestyle to make it happen, to make it feel authentic?
Mhm. Well, yeah, I mean, I think the last thing I want to be is a gatekeeper.
Yeah,
When
it's
it
hard,
comes
right?
to
It's
Yeah.
tough.
either, like, I don't want to ever tell someone like don't wear a fire truck red leather suit out to a bar, but you should own yourself. Like you should like own who you are when you put that on and you like walk into like a bar, any setting with it. Like it becomes, it's perceived less as a costume if you bring your full self in when you're wearing that, right?
Right.
If you're comfortable in your skin, and like I always, every time I always think that I would rather take up space being more quiet and being like a listener rather than actively like talking or trying to take the whole conversation. I'd rather
Right.
like sit in my corner of the room talking with a bunch of people who I feel comfortable with, and like that's my confidence. Like I want to like take up my space how I am and not try to like bring all of me like into a place, because like not everyone is going to be receptive
Mhm.
of my energy either. So I think what matters at the end of the day is that you just got to show up as yourself. And I think lifestyle and interest shouldn't be a deterrent for expression on a deeper level,
Right.
because it's like, I mean, I think at the end of the day we are we are engaging in a hobby that requires so much nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So so when that nonverbal communication shroud gets pulled off, right? You can't just like hide behind your clothes and be like, "Hey, these clothes, this fedora, this like gangster suit, this is my personality." But what if someone like tries to start talking to you and like, and you just like fumble and you just like all of a sudden like start feeling small? It's like, okay, then that's when the costume mindset comes into play, because you're really not like owning who you are when you put that piece of clothing on. So it's more food for thought. That's not the truth. That's how I see things when it comes to like costume and dressing up. But um, yeah, nonverbal communication is great among strangers and acquaintances and being out in the world, but then you are going to interact and you are
Mm-hmm.
going to talk with people. So it's also a plus to be comfortable in your own skin.
Absolutely. I
Amen.
think we've been having our fair share of conversations about this with a lot of different people, and I think people always forget that you know you will interact with people, but maybe interacting with people isn't a bad thing. I think it just gives you another opportunity to kind of express yourself. Because I think with Marco, I mean, obviously, people do talk to you, and you're also an interesting person outside of your clothes too. Like it doesn't just stop at the clothes. Like I've seen, people talk to both of us, randomly when we're at places. And I
Yeah.
think it's fun to kind of bring them
Mm-hmm.
in. And that's why it's never been like a costume. Maybe it comes off that way on Instagram for people like you and people like me and Spencer. There's always going to be that kind of
Yeah.
barrier. But
Right.
Mhm.
that's why, yeah, I think Spencer and I've been trying to hint at this idea of, putting yourself out there and being receptive to people. Like you got to be, maybe in the past you said like you got to be cool. Um, but it's also like you got to be friendly.
Mm.
You got to be like, I think, Marco, obviously like you said earlier, like the positive vibes, encouraging people to be themselves. That can only really happen, I think, when you talk with the person. Like you have to
Yeah.
converse in both
Yeah.
ways. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, hey, if you ever see any of us, feel free to talk to us. Kind of. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
maybe,
Exactly.
Don't follow
Yeah.
us.
don't follow us
Don't follow
around, but
us.
if we're at an event that is conducive for a conversation, like a fashion event or like at a
Uh-huh.
bar, you can do
Yeah.
that. If we
Good
are doing
vibes
errands,
only, though.
please don't talk to us. We don't want
I'm at Ralph's, man.
Yeah, let me live, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Marco, thank you for hopping on with us. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing some
great,
of the
great
mindset
talk.
here.
Yeah.
GTA, as I call it.
GTA.
Is there
San
anything you want to
Andreas.
plug, Marco? I mean, if you want people to follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. This is a really wonderful chat. I am Pocket Man on Instagram, but instead of the O, there's a 0.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Yeah, I think regular Pocket Man's like some random person. I think,
One day I'm gonna take it from them.
you gotta like
Gonna
DM like Instagram and then be like, hey, this guy is like not utilizing his username to the full potential. Let me take it from him,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be inactive, and they could just like
I need
boot
to
them
do
out
that
of
with
it.
Twitter. I need to get Spencer DSO on all platforms. So someone's
There you
sitting on
go.
that account, but they haven't done anything. Like they haven't tweeted anything ever.
Kick him out for inactivity,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, come on, they do that with
That
video
Twitter.
games.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, follow Marco on there. You'll see some great fits. If you want to talk with Marco occasionally as he drops in, you can go to patreon.com/downdirection. Marco is a proud sad head friend member of our Discord. He was there on day one when we first made it before we fully launched the Patreon. So he was, one of the OGs. We also played Warzone one time
Oh,
Yeah.
on stream.
early
So
COVID.
early
Wow, early
COVID
COVID
stuff,
Warzone nights. Oh man.
So, yeah, Marco's been around. Marco's been on the blog a lot as well. But yeah, if you ever want to talk to us, go to patreon.com/downdirection. $5 a month gives you access to our Discord and our bonus episodes. And $10 doesn't give you anything extra, but we do thank you. So thank you to Austin Malat, Shane Curry, Philip Gagard, Jarrett Collian, and Henrik Wilberg. We appreciate you guys a lot. Um, I'm Ethan M. Wong.
I'm Spencer DSO.
And we are produced by MJ, who is not on mic. But yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Marco, for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.